I bring the city council meeting to order for the city of Yamhill on Wednesday, October 9th, 2024 at 6:32 PM. May I get a roll call, please?
Corrigan here.
Askey here.
Potter here.
Jensen here.
Please stand for the flag salute. I pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, we'll go ahead and open for public comment. If you have a public comment, please step up to the podium so we can hear you appropriately on our recording system. Yamhill encourages all citizens to comment on any city business. This is not a dialogue platform. Comments shall be limited to 3 minutes. If you request special accommodation or additional time, please contact City Hall in advance and let them know that you'll need that. And with that, we will go ahead and start. Ms. Denman, would you like to speak? Public comment?
Yes,
Please join us.
thank you. My name is Ingrid Denman and I live on 420 East 3rd Street. And I have concerns over East 3rd not having any stop signs. All the contractors are flying over it. We have them going at a fast-paced speed. And something needs to be done before some kids get injured or killed. Or the pedestrian. So I would like to see stop signs just on 3rd because the other two have stop signs already on it. And maybe at is it the entrance or the exit of the park? There's no stop sign down there. There's a speed bump, but they all just fly over the speed bump. So I'd like to see something like that taken care of, please.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Ms. Burden? No? You don't wish public comment?
No.
Okay. Mr. Davis?
Yes, Mayor Potter, thank you. My name's Robert Davis, 2 North Maple Street in Yamhill. I drove an hour and a half from Burnside to be here for this meeting representing Yamhill Neighborhood Association and its membership. We have 2 questions that we'd like to ask, one directly to the mayor, if you wouldn't mind. As Yamhill Neighborhood Association is a membership here in this town of Yamhill, and the lighting ordinance is very important to us. We're wondering why it is that you voted against the lighting ordinance that was presented to you at the last council meeting. And in addition to that, with the extra staff that City Hall now has, that you've never had before, this many employees, why is the City Hall not open on Fridays as it used to be? So those are my 2 concerns, 2 questions. I hope you find time to answer at least in due time, if not sooner. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much. Ms. Perrin?
You can call me Patty. Patty Perrin, 215 North Maple Street. So I have 3 issues, one of which I was under the assumption that Jason had already addressed over at the subdivision, the new subdivision. I got a call, actually a text today from somebody that lives over across the street from the new homes. And the contractor is still watering at 1:15 in the afternoon. I know that there was a couple of homeowners over there already, and they're watering about 9:30 or before 10 anyway. And the comment that was made to me is, why should we as residents follow the water restrictions when the contractors aren't and appear not to care? So, and with the And I don't know if you got my text about and the video about them spraying the driveways after they had poured the concrete. And that was atrocious for the amount of, for the heat that was in the day. It was 73 that day, and they were spraying it down like they were washing their car instead of a mist, which they should have been doing for the concrete. Yeah, anyway. So the other thing is, and I talk about this a lot, and that's the traffic on 47. There was a water main break just yesterday. Jason and the guys were out there trying to get it fixed. There was one lane of traffic, and you would not have thought, if you hadn't seen it, that there was anybody out there working in the street. They were going by there, even the trucks, semis fully loaded, going by there like their backside was on fire. And I'm sorry, but I think that is so totally wrong. I did not see any one of our officers out there at any of the time that they were there. So that's a real concern. And then the third one is, and I don't know if you all can do anything about this, or if you've paid attention to it, the gas station across the street, that is not what was approved. Those are concrete blocks, they are not brick. And that's, I was told that gas station over there looks like the same one outside of Sheridan, if I'm not mistaken. So anyway, I'm sure you all have seen it, but I am figuring at this point that nothing has been said to him. No?
I
Okay.
don't know. Answer your question, I don't know.
Denman, sorry. I was gonna speak with him. Brian Denman, 420 East Third Street. I wanna follow up her comment about, the stop sign. So I've lived in Danville all my life. 420 East Third Street was never built to be a everyday ran street the way it is. The speed bumps do help. They do make a difference. They need to be bigger if they really wanna make a difference. I personally believe that there needs to be a stop sign at each end of that park. We'll call it the west end and the east end. There needs to be a stop sign before you even get to the park. Coming down 420 towards 47, definitely needs to be a stop sign because they're rolling down that hill at, 20. I think there's only one speed sign, if I'm mistaken. I'm not even sure, but I do know there's no stop sign. So the way they're coming down through there, even today, there was a guy in a white F350 or whatever that comes ripping out of there and hits that center bump. But let's see how high I can get in my truck. I don't want to throw an officer under the bus, but as I was driving down here, one went flying by and, without his red and blues on and, I'm like, what are you doing? And then he hit his lights and pulled somebody over. So I went, okay, well, at least he was doing that. But there needs to be stop signs. That is a very dangerous street. Somebody's going to get hurt. I've called and talked to Greg about it. I feel like we need to put even temporary sandwich board signs out there that just try to slow somebody down because the kid is going to come out of that park one day and they're going to get plowed. And then the city's going to have a problem on their hands. I don't know. I just, something needs to be addressed with that. And I was told it needs to come to the agenda. I was maybe supposed to get a phone call. I haven't gotten one, so I thought I'd come down here today. This is something that I feel I'm passionate about. Like, we'll do everything I need to get stop signs on there. This street as well, I think there needs to be a stop sign down on Cedar, whatever street comes out of the park. There should be a stop sign down there. I walk my dogs every morning on a certain loop and I see people come through intersections you can't see because of bushes. I don't know if we have an ordinance with people trimming back their bushes around here to make sure you can see stop signs, but that's something that I think should be addressed. I would like crosswalks, but that's a whole nother story with 47 in the state, but definitely 420 needs, or the East Third Street definitely needs some sort of sidewalks or stop signs put in because there are no sidewalks other than in front of this side of the street. I mean, if you're screwed. I mean, and you have to zigzag across the street if you want to go. So it's just, there's something to be addressed there. So that could get brought to an agenda. I'll be glad to go out and put sandwich boards out myself if I need to. I don't care. I just, something needs to be done about that before something happens. So.
Perfect, thank you very much. Mr. Lossley?
Mayor, council, the topic is communications, and the issue has to do with an illustration of a water main repair. And a number of people commented on that communication, and I just feel that it's deserving to you a compliment. Whoever is behind making sure that that gets done, people like that kind of communication. Thank you. And the next item has to do with a modification to building code in the year that the building construction of residential development on the former school district property of, it's either 62 or 67, I forget now, lots. And before the homes were built, there was I think it was possibly a declaration of emergency that the setback requirement on the sides of the homes went from 7 feet to 5 feet. And so what that means is, and that's from the foundation to the property line. Now, I've been before you another time speaking on this particular issue. I want you to appreciate and understand how critical in a backwards movement that decision actually is. If you watch television at all and seen all of the fires having to do with residents in California, California is the model for fire. In a residential in a residential neighborhood where you have houses that close together, that's the foundation. It is possible to build past the foundation. So that means there is less than 10 feet. If a home structure becomes fully involved in fire, you have fire coming out the windows, and as it comes out the windows, it travels laterally to some degree. So if you have a roof overhang, 10 feet or less than 10 feet is not enough, and you can have a continuous progression depending on weather and wind. So would you please reconsider bringing that information to the Planning Commission? You accepted a recommendation by the city planner. I believe personally the city planner did not do any homework. We have a municipal code that states that every decision regarding ordinances and city activity, that we take into consideration safety, health, and welfare.
Thank you.
Those.
Your 2 minutes is up, sir.
Oh, okay.
Thank you so much. Ms. Morrison, do you have any? It's not your presentation. This is-
I'm here for the Yamhill Downtown Association, if I
Okay,
could just do a
please
quick
do.
tidbit here, because prior to the, it's about the Economic Development Committee, so.
Okay.
Update on the YDA, we are working on several different things. It's getting really busy. We had a meeting with Marcy and Shelley. We talked about the fall stuff, but we've got upcoming, tomorrow night is bingo, so we are working on the Christmas lights for the whole downtown, all of the buildings. And so tomorrow night is our bingo night that we are using for funding the lights. The city has donated some money towards, lighting the building, but we're trying to gain, involvement from all the business around to donate to help support the lights that go up from 1st of November through February. And so that's an important element for just lighting and showcasing the buildings and accentuating the architecture and just showing that we're like alive and open for business. So we've got that going. So this bingo is for that. Halloween coming up, we're doing a trunk or treat out here again, and we talked about that. meeting last week, and this year, what we're wanting to do is a theme around music. And last year was literacy, so classic literature. And so what we're hoping to do, my ask tonight, is if the city wants to do, I know last year you guys had a, spot out here, but actual vehicle or vehicle. And we're doing different musical themed cars. So whatever favorite music is, that could be something that could be fun to showcase. So if the city would like to have a vehicle, or maybe it's Public Works with something that's like, your favorite music, like rocking that, and then we can have some signage and things. So that's coming up. And then Christmas, we're doing the tree lighting and collaborating with the city on that. And then one more thing, the president and I'm the vice president of the YDA, we're going to attend a Main Street conference. It's Washington's conference, so every other year, Washington, Oregon flip-flop, and this year it's a Places conference in Walla Walla. And we are attending a building blocks conference workshop that is going to help us learn more about the capabilities of the Oregon Main Street, or the Main Street, nationally, and resources that we can use and tap into to help with all of our projects that can also tie into our Economic Development Committee efforts. So we'll be doing that and we'll report back, but that should be really fruitful and helpful. So we're excited about that.
That's excellent. Thank you, Jenny.
Thank you.
Will you let the YDA know how much we appreciate all that they're doing?
Oh, yes. I love it.
Amazing work.
Thank you.
Is there anybody else in the room that would like to speak for public comment? Please step up to the podium.
Hi, I'm Ingrid again. I just have a concern. Are there any guidelines for people cleaning up their yards and getting rid of some of the garbage that is alongside of their houses? Do we not have an ordinance of?
We do. We have a code enforcement program, and it's by reporting. So if you come to the city hall and report something that you want to see changed, then we respond to that and make sure that
I've
that's
already done
addressed.
that. It didn't help.
Did you file a code complaint?
Pardon?
Yeah.
Yes.
This year?
Yes.
Well, maybe not this year.
No, it was last year, because it was, I think when you just came aboard, I was told that Angie was gonna be sending out letters.
I can look into the forms, but I can also print one off for you when the meeting's over, so you can fill one out with what's going on, because I don't recall anything.
Well, if you drive past my house, I'm 420,
I
so,
can print off a form so you can write it all out for me.
well. Is it?
We'll gladly put the form together. That's what it is.
Okay,
We do need it in writing.
okay,
Makes it official.
okay. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Ingrid. Any additional comment in the room? Seeing none, we will go to online. Is there anybody online that would like to speak for public comment? Please unmute yourself or raise a hand, a virtual hand. Not seeing any. We will go ahead and close public comment at this time. Thank you all who spoke. We do hear what you say. We do. All right, agenda updates, city report.
Still clicking on the computer. There are some changes to the agenda. The ones that the council has in front of them and the ones that were set out here have the additions and subtractions noted on them. It's just differing from what was posted online. For presentations, we're going to reschedule that for the November meeting, so that has been crossed out. To let you know, with the committee reports, Planning Commissioner Chair Ken Moore called me and said he would not be able to attend tonight. But wanted to let you guys know that their last meeting and their next meeting, they are going to be doing Title 11. the Water Advisory Committee Chair, Kathy Phillips, it is her birthday today, so she's not gonna be in. If one of the other people want to do an update, kind of, I don't think there was any action going on, but there is going to be, I think later, maybe discussion about a trip for the Water Advisory. And then adding to unfinished business, item E, the auditor's contract update. And then new business, adding item F, for a vote on council president.
Mayor, can I make a comment in regards to the water committee? What we did?
Are you on the water committee? You are. Okay, please. Actually, we're not quite there yet.
We're not,
When we get to
Okay.
committee reports,
Okay.
we'll
that's fine.
we'll address that. Thank you, Penny. Go ahead. Was there anything more? Okay, thank you. Okay, council. Consent agenda, financial statements to current are up to date. Minutes, 9/11/24 council meeting, current, up to date. And the Xylem emergency purchase of pump for public works notification, all of those were part of the consent agenda. Have they been reviewed? May I get a motion, please?
I move to approve the consent agenda as is.
Jensen, second.
A vote, please.
Corrigan, I.
Potter, aye.
Jensen, aye.
All right, that is passed. Presentations have been moved over. Oath of office. How exciting. Oh. This is the fun part. Jake says it's the last fun part.
I know where you live.
Please join me up here, Kim. Stand here. Yeah, both need to be signed, correct?
Yeah, but when, in case she needs
Oh, there you go. That's brilliant. All right, I'm gonna read it and you can respond. Okay. Raise your hand, right hand. I, Kim Kind, swear that I will faithfully support the Constitution and laws of the United States of America,
Swear that I will faithfully support the Constitution and laws of the United States of America
and of the state of Oregon,
and of the state of Oregon,
and the charter and ordinances
and the charter and ordinances
of the city of Yamhill,
of the city of Yamhill,
and I will perform the duties of city councillor for the city of Yamhill
and I will perform the duties of city councillor for the city of Yamhill
to the best of my ability,
to the best of my ability,
so long as I may continue in that capacity.
so long as I may continue in that capacity.
Thank you.
you.
Congratulations. I'm going to give these both to you. She will ask you to sign them. Okay. And get them back to her when you're done. And please join us.
All right.
You are now a council member. We have a name tag here for you, so you're official. Okay. All right, committee reports. Patty Perrin wanted to speak on behalf of the Water Advisory Committee. Please.
So one of the attendees to the water meeting was concerned that there have been no updates as to what the water committee has been doing or what they completed or what's in process or any of that type of thing. So I volunteered to try and get all that information together so that it could be provided to whoever is wanting them. So I am currently working on that. The other thing that was requested was communication in other forms other than online through Facebook or whatever the case may be. So I again volunteered to say, that I would get a phone tree together. Shelley said we would talk and see how to go about getting that done. So you were gonna guide me along the way, but anyway, so at this point, I'm in the process of doing that. So we'll
That's a
see
big
how that,
task.
we'll see how that goes. But I'm more than willing to do it. I really am, because there's a lot of people that I have talked to that say they don't, they don't use Facebook and they don't use the internet and all that. And so they're clueless as to anything that's going on. So, I mean, I'm more than willing to do that. So that's it. As far as a phone number? Oh, yeah, that's right. And then Rocky also suggested that maybe there would be a phone number, kind of like what happened when we had the water break. To see if, when there's issues, if that number could be used to send stuff out to, information out to people. When we had the water, we've got the water ban or the level 2 water ban. If there were fire restrictions, or just, information that everybody should be aware of. So I was going to actually talk about that when we have our meeting on the 15th, if that was something that, I was gonna talk to Shelley or Angie and see if that was something that we could do. Anyway, so that was it. I thought it was productive. So,
Thank you very much, Patty. Economic Development Committee, Jenny?
Hello again. So I'm here on behalf of the Economic Development Committee. We've had a bit of a pause over the last several months as we were reconvening and making new strategy after having Shelley on board. And so now we have our new group, and our first meeting is next week on the 15th. And so I just wanted to just provide an update that we'll be going over we'll be kind of level setting on the priorities for the group and determining kind of like the best strategy moving forward, our objectives, like the key things that we want to work on. We'll highlight some of the things that we worked on and that we did accomplish in the past. And so now we will be, as you all are aware, under the city council as opposed to the planning commission. So I think that's going to be pretty exciting because we can really have some, direct line of sight, and you guys will be on it. So that'll be very helpful. And then we'll just kind of do first steps is like, okay, what are our objectives for the group? What do we want the downtown to look like? What's the goal for the coming year? And then obviously like determine if who the chair is and some other roles. So we'll kind of start fresh, but I think it's going to be helpful. And we have so many things pending with grants. So I was talking about the Oregon Main Street grant, but there's some other things that we have ideas for and that we can proceed. And part of the previous iteration of our group was around the historic preservation of the town. And so we do not want to forget that, but we also want to have an eye towards, moving forward. So there's lots of good things in store, and then we will be reporting back at the next city council after next week's meeting.
This has been one of those things that has been building over time.
Yeah.
That's so exciting to kind of see that there's a glimmer and hope there that's coming through. That's really nice.
Yeah,
You've invested a lot of time and effort.
definitely. And as far as the people involved too, and there's definitely, the cross pollination with the Downtown Association. And so with some of us from that are on this committee, and there's a lot of the same goals that we have in the YDA with the city, with the Economic Development Committee. So I think this year, this coming, next 12 months, we have a lot of really positive things happening.
Wonderful. Thank you.
Yeah. Okay.
Lots of good things. Unfinished business, DLCD Grant Citizen Advisory Committee update.
Okay, so we had our first Citizen Advisory Committee meeting on September 18th as a requirement of the grant from DLCD. The scope of this meeting was essentially to get the participants together in the room, give them an overview of the project and the scope of work, the schedule of work, and then kind of go around the table and find out what people's priorities were for the housing code updates and for the downtown development. And then the bulk of the work was really around the buildable lands inventory and the map that they provided, and then just having the citizens, input on if they saw any errors, if there was anything that might have been, unbuildable that was marked otherwise and that sort of thing. So they did that as a group at the meeting and then also received the documents by email later to hone in and look a little closer and try to figure out and then provide that feedback to me, and then I'll provide that back to the consultants and they'll use that to inform their work going forward. And then bring that back in their next presentation at our next meeting, get feedback again from the citizens, and then, go back, and we'll do that 3 times. So our next Citizen Advisory Committee is going to be November 4th here at City Hall. And the scope of work on that is continuing work on the buildable lands inventory, and then an update from them on the comprehensive plan update. And then the other thing that is coming up is the public meeting where the citizens will have an opportunity to comment and provide feedback on what the consultants have recommended so far. And that's going to be November 21st here at City Hall from 6 to 8. And we'll be sure to put a public notice out about that in all the places. But one of the places we're going to spread the word is at Trunk or Treat as well. So we're going to be handing out flyers or somehow trying to spread the word through that. So we'll work with YDA on that. And I think that is the update on the grants so far. We do have a deadline in November of submitting some documents to date to DLCD in order to get reimbursed in time for part of this grant. So that's a pretty big deadline coming up for a lot of work.
Are you on track for that?
Well, yeah, it's on me. I'll be doing it. But it's just going to be compiling a lot of information. So that's going to be coming up very soon in November. But yeah, we'll make that deadline. So that is that one.
Excellent. You want to hit us with Merkley?
Yep. So the Merkley grant update is, there's some good news there. I think you recall that for this Hillsborough tie-in, the EPA, which is the funding agency, required us to, before we could actually apply for the grant, go back and go out to bid for engineering services because we had had our engineer for too many years. And so after so many years, they make sure you're still competitive. So we did that, complied with that. We had one submission to the RFP and it was from our current engineers. So we will be moving forward with them. And I sent you guys the full RFP that they went ahead and sent us, but we are doing a separate standalone contract with them for this project, just to keep things clean for the EPA. So there's no overlap with our existing contract. So that's what I'm seeking approval from tonight from council, is the permission to go ahead and sign this contract so that will close that loop and I can now then apply for the actual grant and then hopefully get those funds moving.
So you need permission tonight from council to,
It's a $240,000 procurement, so which is budgeted, but it requires council approval to sign the contract.
anybody want to give me a motion? Any discussions? Any questions for Shelley?
I don't think so. It's what we've discussed and the direction we've been traveling.
With that, can I get a motion?
So how do you want this worded? We're just granting permission to Shelley to
Sign AKS contract.
sign the AKS contract.
Sign the contract with AKS, which is just a standalone project contract for this particular
So it's
project.
the engineering service agreement.
This.
Okay.
And it's the same dollar amount that's been budgeted.
So I move to give Shelley approval to sign the engineering service agreement with AKS.
Jensen, second.
A vote, please.
Corrigan, I.
SKI.
Potter, aye.
Jensen, I.
Kend, aye.
She speaks.
That's awesome.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Water storage reservoir archaeological study.
Okay, this is also just an update, but it's also good news. And the good news is that for the reservoir, for the FEMA grant, you signed off on the approval for the archaeological dig, which was required for the grant. And the organization that conducted that study found an artifact that they call an isolate. Maybe that's common terms to scientists, I'm not sure. They found something, and the good news is that it did require additional digging and an additional day of research, which added on to our initial costs by about $4,300. But like the initial 12,000, will be reimbursed for that amount. But the study just came back and they determined that it was an isolated item and we can proceed
Do
with
we
the
know what that
project.
item was?
Or
I'm sorry?
will we ever find out?
What it was.
Yeah.
There's a picture.
Yeah, so I
on the
did send
reports
you
that were
guys a
submitted.
picture of the item. It's like a round red rock.
Oh, sure, but I was just curious, like, still what that was. It's just a
Oh, I
red
don't know.
rock.
I don't know if they determined what it was.
Okay, I was unclear what it was, but.
Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, they did do a complete summary analysis, but in my reading, I did not see where I understood exactly what the item actually was. They just determined it was not sacred native ground, that we needed to stop digging. So that's just an update on that. So we'll be spending a few more dollars in the near term and be reimbursed later, but that should allow us to move forward with this grant and then hopefully be approved for the bigger grant. So we'll keep you posted on that.
Wonderful.
Okay.
I like hearing grant.
I know.
That's incredible to me. Yamhill County Transit update.
Okay, so this is an update to feedback that was provided by citizens as to any changes they would want to see with bus stop shelters and signage and placement. That Yamhill County Transit reached out to us proactively. They were going to be doing some new signage, but before they did, they wanted to see if the stops were in the best places, and so we solicited information from citizens. They provided that, we provided that feedback back to YCT, and they determined that based on that information, they're going to go ahead and adjust one location of the stop near the Umpqua Bank to be located closer to the corner away from the bank because people had concerns about safety in front of the bank and that sort of a thing. Well, safety using the bank with the bus stop there is what it was. And then that would give more visibility for the stop itself, which responded to a lot of the concerns as well. And the stop with the shelter will remain where it is, but YCT will install temporary signage and then follow up with permanent signs, and those will be permitted by ODOT, so we won't have to do any local permitting. They did want to say one caveat, and that is that the final approval of this is by ODOT. So this is their recommendation to ODOT. They don't expect ODOT to disagree. So assuming there's no reason for them to do so, this will be the changes that people in town will see. And so that should happen. They think they'll submit ODOT review for permanent signage in October and November with approval following a month or so afterwards. So in the next few months, some temporary signage will start to be put up in the fall, and then the permanent at some point after.
So we're talking about the corner just north of the bank.
Yes.
Is that the one?
Mhm.
Okay, on the same side of the road.
Yes, and the other one will stay as it is.
Yeah,
No.
Okay, that's good.
Yep.
And will it have one of those things that has the bench on it? Is because they were talking about that
she-
before.
Let me see, location. She didn't say that they would necessarily add the seat, so it was just a new sign and stop, but the other shelter will remain as it is. It's possible she might, but she didn't indicate that for sure, so.
Good to know, thank you.
Okay. So that's that update.
Next item is auditor's contract update, MSA SOW. I read that prior to our meeting this evening. The attorney was the auditor's contract that initially came to us, and there was some wording in there that we were not comfortable with. And so we sent it to, well, we've initially sent it to our attorney. He sent it back saying, yeah, there's some things, questionable things. So we sent it back to the auditors and said, this isn't okay, we're suggesting this. And it went back to our attorney and he sent it back to us saying that they've made some changes. They didn't make some changes, but he's proposing that overall it's good and it's in our best interest, and it would be, he proposes that we approve the contract as it is now with the updates. Any questions?
And I would just need council approval to sign that contract because it is above the allotted amount.
So we need to approve the contract as,
You need to grant me authority to sign it.
To sign it as adjusted.
As it is written with these updates that the auditing firm made for our attorney's recommendations. So, and I did send that full, it just came today, so I understand you haven't had a chance to read it, but I did just send the full MSA to you guys today with those comments. And then the summary of what the attorneys said, and just one correction, it's she attorney. But anyway, so yeah, so she did recommend that the risks were minimal enough that she would recommend proceeding with the language as it currently is with those changes that they agreed to. Because the ones they did not agree to were minor, essentially. So I just need approval to sign from council.
so discussion from council? Questions? Feedback?
So I read through it, it seems, I mean, the lawyers seem pretty clear on, they're thinking it's a good idea now with the update, so I don't see any reason not to.
No, I didn't see anything in there either that was questionable. Nothing we couldn't live with anyway.
Right.
A motion then?
I make a motion to approve, to authorize Shelley to be able to sign the MSA SOW auditor's contract update as it currently is with updates as per the city attorney.
Jensen second.
Nicely done. Can I get a vote?
Corey and I.
That's good.
Potter, aye.
Jensen, I.
Kend, I.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right, new business, water plant tour with Public Works and Water Advisory Committee. This is fun too.
Yeah, so this is just an update. This was Jason's idea, and it sounds like we've done this in the past, but we just have a really excellent turnout. This Friday, we're going to be going up with some elected officials and local officials, our Water Advisory Committee, and some other regional agency partners, about 21 or so in total. And we're going to be starting here and caravanning up to the Turner Creek, the water plant and the reservoirs to basically just give them a, first view of, in-person view of the situation so that they understand what we're currently at and that this water situation isn't changing. And then hopefully get some heads together about what some potential alternatives are that maybe we haven't thought of yet, some additional resources for what we are trying to work on. The good news is we do have several of these folks who are bringing along their grants person with them. So hopefully, giving us some new ideas. So Jason and Kyle will lead that discussion and answer the questions and show them around and hopefully we can come up with some new solutions. So in the meantime, while we're continuing to work on the options that we have going.
Wonderful.
I don't know if Jason, do you have anything more to add to that?
No, I think you did a great job.
All right, so. This has been noticed publicly because we will have a quorum of council there, making probably, having discussions about conversations that will make future decisions.
But it is not open to the public.
It's not open to the public. It's just, invited guests are coming. We've invited the media as well. If there's interested parties, they'd be welcome to come up on their own, although I don't know how much space is there for all these cars. We're gonna hopefully everyone carpool.
That's a valid point, because it's pretty tight parking up there.
Yeah, so-
Once we get to the impound especially,
Yeah.
with all the logging going on up and down that road. so.
And we can't open the gate and park inside.
We can, but
Can we?
still at that point, it's still pretty tight
Limited.
parking, yes. limited.
I don't anticipate we would have large numbers from the community, but if we had a few people that wanted to,
Which counselors are going? You two?
everyone.
Oh, we're all going?
Yeah.
Oh, that's wonderful.
Yeah.
Oh, great. Is any of you interested and able to volunteer to transport in your vehicle?
I can.
I probably can too.
I can too. So there's 4 vehicles.
We'll have space for 2.
If you're interested, I
I
can
can
read the
take
list.
mine too, and then.
You can what? I'm sorry.
I said, if anyone's interested, I can read the list of all who's coming.
Would you please? I'm very curious.
So we have, not in any order, other than actually it's alphabetical order. Kyle Adams, Counselor Askey, Commissioner Lindsay Burschauer, Arthur Chaput from Business Oregon, John Christensen from Engineering, Counselor Corrigan, Bob Davis from the Water Advisory Committee, Stacy Duffy from Water Resources. She is a grants person. Representative Elmer, the Governor's Water Liaison, Chandra Ferrari, Yamhill County's Economic Development Director, Julia Goodrum. Senator Merkley's office will be there. His field rep, Gustavo Guerrero. Yamhill County Commissioner Johnston will be there. Congresswoman Salinas's field rep, Brandon Jordan, will be there. Counselor Kind, her husband, Jeremy, who is versed in this issue,
He works for Tualatin Valley Water District.
Oh, we like
joining
him.
us.
But he runs the fleet, but.
Alyssa Mucken from Water Resources, Patty Perrin from Water Advisory Council, Kathy Phillips from Water Advisory Council, Mayor Potter, myself, Jason, Beth Wojtowski from Regional Solutions, Counselor Jensen, and I have not heard back from Starla, but that's everybody. So quite a good group, and they're very interested in helping.
They have been for quite some
Yeah.
time. They've just been waiting on us to be ready.
So that is that update.
Wonderful. Can you send me that list? That would be helpful. I can start practicing names.
So for everyone's information, we're gonna meet here at 10 o'clock and then. Okay.
OMA 2024-2025 mayor contest.
Yeah, so this was brought to us by Mayor Potter from the LOC. They're putting together a contest for students if I was mayor. And so Mayor Potter reached out and asked, she's indicated she would really like us to participate in this. So I did reach out to the school district, Clint and his assistant, as well as Jajetta, who's on the school board, and sent this to them and asked if they would be interested, and they said they would spread the word as well. With the idea that the goal is sending this out early so that teachers can incorporate this into their curriculum throughout the year, so then the students can create something that would potentially win a prize. And so there would be winners from high school, middle school, grade school levels, and it would be up to the city to determine the prizes that they win. So it can be a cash award, or it can be shadow the mayor for a day, something like that, if there's not a budget for that. So we would have to determine that. But we did reach out to the school. They said they would promote it and spread the word. I know Angie's gonna put it on our website, Facebook, all the places that we post things. And so then we'll just see what we get. And then the winners from each of those grade levels will be entered into the state contest. And then the state would choose winners from around all the schools from around the whole state. And then those winners would be invited to go to the summer mayor's conference and be presented with awards and that sort of thing. So we're gonna go ahead and participate.
I'm glad to see that. At the mayor's conferences each year, there's all of them lined up for all of us to see, and and view. And there's some really clever things that these kids are bringing to the table.
Yeah.
And so it'd be nice to have, you know, some clever things from our kids too.
Well, and it gives them an opportunity. The goal is to help educate them obviously about local government and what their city council and their mayors do. And then also, they said it really does yield some really creative ideas that mayors and councils walk away with in the future that the kids come up with.
We look forward to it every year, so it'll be fun to participate in it. Thank you.
Oh, sorry, it's your turn. The IT cost update. Okay, so, this is new information, that I would have liked to have gotten to you sooner than today, but, our IT expenses are, getting beyond our budget. So Chief Graven and I have been discussing this. The chief has been on top of this for more than a year and has done a lot to rein in those costs, but, even with change in management to our vendor, they haven't really changed their practices much. So our budget this year for IT services is 14,000 in our current budget. And in the first 3 months, they have invoiced us $12,000. So we do not have enough to basically last the rest of the year without digging into other funds, which we do have some in another place that I can go to, but I'm trying to hold on to that for reasons I'll tell you in a minute. At this point, I've talked to Kevin, who's the manager. I've talked to Paul, who's their sales manager. Chief and I have been in discussions with them. And essentially, I issued a moratorium for staff on any IT services. No, do not request IT services without first getting a dual approval from myself and the chief, because there's so many things the police need that I don't know. He needs to be a part of that. So that's currently in effect. So we're trying to stop the bleeding by basically not incurring any additional costs. But there's some things that have been ongoing that we're still getting invoices for. So in the meantime, we're not incurring any new costs, except for what is critical to our cybersecurity and, you know, efficiency, operational needs. So in the meantime, I have been researching alternative providers. And the good news is that in that research, I have found an alternative model of service, which is essentially larger cities contract through IGAs with smaller cities like ours. And the cost is significantly cheaper. So for example, the city of Hubbard contracts with the city of Kaiser. There's separate firewalls, separate servers, separate insurance, but they pay $380 a month to the city of Kaiser for their services. And the city of Kaiser is their help desk and, you know. So Chief and I had an initial meeting with City of Kaiser, and they're gonna come out and do a walkthrough. It was a great meeting. I think from what I can tell, they would be able to provide all of our IT needs and security and such at a significantly reduced cost. Somewhere, we don't know yet, but somewhere between 10 and 15,000. So even at 15,000 a year, which is our current budget, 14, it'd be $1,250 a month instead of 4,000 that we're paying. And it would be a regular, consistent bill, not a surprise every month as to what's gonna come. Plus, they have police, so they know how to deal with all of the needs that we have for our police department. So we're hopeful that this is gonna move forward. They're gonna come out here and do a walkthrough to see all of our services, you know, all of our devices and everything that we need. And then if that is, you know, goes without any issues coming up, then we're hoping, I would like to do this next month, but their schedule might not allow us to get on their schedule till January. I do have to give a 30-day termination to our current provider. So we do have that requirement in there. And then again, with the holidays and stuff, they might have to. So hopefully January, but I'm hoping for sooner, that we could get this contract going. And then that would be a potentially $33,000 savings to the city. Because at the rate we're going, we're gonna end up at around 48,000 minimum, unless there's some unidentified emergencies that pop up. It'll be more. So anyway, so the goal is obviously to ensure that does not happen, that we don't spend that kind of money. And but yet still get the service that we need. So I think this is gonna be a good alternative for us. And I'll continue to keep you guys posted, but I just wanted to let you know where we were at with that, because it's a pretty significant expense that's happening right now. So, that's it.
That's very clever. That's out of the box thinking.
Yeah, yeah,
And it's a great resolution.
yeah. I was happy to learn that that model existed.
Oh, it's excellent.
How long have we had the current IT company for?
Well, I mean,
That's
it's
not long,
month to month. I don't know if it's a year contract or if it's just an ongoing MSA with them, but in the contract I read, it says 30 days to terminate.
right? Yeah. Do you know why it came out so different than what they're
I
invoicing?
can't speak to that, except I can tell you they were surprised our budget was so low. So,
Okay.
I can just say that I'm Bill Murray at Groundhog Day, because we've been through the same
Yeah.
discussion before.
Yeah.
And here we
That's why I
are. Yeah,
asked.
I mean, it's things that I don't know that realm, but perfect example of this week is one of our computers that we receive calls on and respond to calls through and do all of our reports and everything on. Wasn't working, so I had to go back into Dell and get serviced. And part of that required the SIM card to be put in it. And when we got it back, it didn't have the SIM card in it. They threw it away. And so I had to go through and get another SIM card, but because I've done this a while, I actually have requested extra SIM cards because this happened before and I anticipated it. So I had one, was able to get a hold of our provider and get that computer up and running as soon as practicable. But it's things like that. And then it requires work to be done on it when that happens. With the new SIM card involving now 3 different places, including our IT. So it's things of that nature that are unforeseen, but actually because Groundhog Day foresaw it and was able to resolve it, but it's still at a cost. So to avoid those things,
and in researching and talking to other city administrators, city managers, cities our size and bigger, but even our size, nobody's paying what we're paying. So,
Oh, interesting.
yeah, it's not a good fit.
No,
It
no,
doesn't sound like it.
it isn't. And is Kaiser the only option?
It's the best option. Woodburn is another one. I have not actually pursued that yet, but I reached out to them and they haven't gotten back to me. So, and then the other two are not a good option because they would want to charge us essentially for FTE costs, and it'd be out of our budget. So it's the best option for our city size and population and who they work with. Already it's very similar to what they're already doing. So it's just a good fit and an easy fit, I think.
And if they respond to needs here, they've got to travel from Kaiser to Yamhill.
They try to do everything remote, but if they do, they will charge us a much more reasonable amount. I think they said 75 an hour or something like that, 85. Plus probably some mileage, which is 67 cents a mile. But you know, much more reasonable than what we're paying now. And they would probably try very hard not to travel. It would only be if we needed it because
Yeah.
they couldn't figure it out otherwise. But yeah, so everything remote. And he also said, if you're gonna call me or email me, it takes me 5 minutes or less, I'm not gonna charge you. Whereas we're charged for emails.
between them, so
Between them.
not even too much.
Emails that they are talking
Yeah.
about.
Right, and in their defense, when we somewhat, because I know we've had discussions and I listened to you, Mayor, where you say, talk about positive things, but in discussion with them initially and through the Groundhog Day, when we went through this before and now again. So there's new staff in there and there's a big turnover, which is a huge issue with CGIS and all of the costs for my time and the requirements and what they're billing us for. So that's kind of been curbed, but also what they did was like, well, what we'll do is have somebody that is a lower cost come in and do the work for you. But what ends up happening 100% of the time is they're like, I can't figure it out. So then they have to go to the other person. And then they're like, hey, I need to consult with this person. So now we're getting billed for all 3 of them. But could have just had this person do it in the first place.
Right.
And that's consistent.
And we have no way to anticipate what those costs are gonna be each month. Just whatever they send us, we're like, so, this'll change that.
Let's do that quickly.
Right, yeah, that's the goal. Yeah, so we've invited them out to a walkthrough and they're getting back to us when they can come out. And that's the next step. And then hopefully all goes well, we'll get the 30 days with the other done and then we can, I don't want to do that until we have this in place.
So we'll get this in place, then give the 30-day notice to the,
Well, yeah, right. I mean, maybe not a signed contract, but at least an agreement that we're gonna.
do we have a draft agreement with Kaiser yet?
No, because we just had an initial phone call. Then they're gonna come out and do a walkthrough, make sure that what we have, our needs are something that they can accommodate, which I'm sure they are, but they just wanna know, so they can figure out how much
Sure.
they're gonna charge. And then we'll create something, but I did get a copy of the IGA between Kaiser and Hubbard, so I have a sense of what
Okay.
they offer,
Yeah,
so have that.
and we can run that by our attorneys before we
Oh,
get
yeah.
to the point.
Yeah.
Perfect. You're
And there's
welcome.
always a cost for onboarding as well. Just, we always expect that, so.
Sounds like you got it taken care of.
Yep, just wanted to keep you guys up to date.
Perfect,
So
thank
we'll
you.
come back with hopefully some movement on that next time.
Right, SB 1537 relating to Title 11 updates. Do you want to refer that on?
I just wanted to add one last thing on IT. I do have an email for you. It did get a password, which probably is expired by now. So we'll have to, I'll get a hold of our IT people tomorrow. They'll get a new password. It does expire in 24 hours, so we'll make sure tomorrow and get you up to speed on that. So, sorry. Okay, what was your question for me?
The SB 1537 relating to the Title 11 updates.
Yeah, so I have asked Walt to present to council on the next two items, the 1537 and the FEMA flood regulations update. So you have documents in your packet about both of those. But he has prepared a staff report for you on both of those and wanted to give an update verbally as well.
Wonderful.
Okay, good evening, Mayor, members of the council, and also congratulations, Kim Kind, on being the new council member. You didn't hear me applaud in my office, so just want to let you know. We have a couple of interesting items tonight, and one of them is SB 1537. This is a fascinating situation where the state is really pushing affordable housing. This goes back a number of years where they looked at providing for middle housing, increasing production capacity, accessory dwelling units, also citing standards for affordable housing. And so this is part of a long line of bills that have come out of the legislature to work with local communities on affordable housing. I provided a link to a one-page fact sheet. It's about 21 pages in length. A lot of good detail on that. You may want to follow up with that. But basically, there's three basic components here that might affect the city of Yamhill. The first item is the development of a Housing Accountability and Production Office. This would be jointly managed by the Department of Land Conservation and Development, along with the Building Codes Division. Essentially, this office, the purpose is to be a clearinghouse of information, will help promote affordable housing and provide advice to communities, planners, and developers on how to do so. They do not have any particular enforcement capability, but will have some funding capability, which again is always good for a smaller community. The second set of regulations have to do with affordable housing and granting what are called adjustments. Quite often, you see how to put it, quite often there will be a project that for affordable housing, the developer wants to have a little bit different setback, maybe a different height, a few other changes, for example, in parking. And that's just to allow the affordable housing project to pencil out. And so the state is stating that projects that are defined and meet very, very specific criteria for affordable housing, the city must grant adjustments up to a certain degree. For example, the building height can be increased by a maximum of 20% through this adjustment process. And we are required to do so. And again, though, I want to emphasize this is not for all housing. It's just for those types of housing that are classified and meet very strict criteria for affordable housing. So this is a new set of regulations that we will have to deal with. One other note that still doesn't prohibit the city from allowing greater increases or greater changes. It's just that they will now have to comply with our city codes on those. But for the first, for example, again, the building height, the first 20%, as long as they meet certain requirements, and it is an affordable housing project, the city would have to grant that change. It's also an interesting note that these provisions will sunset in 2032, and I've never seen that for land use planning. So by state law, we do not have to pass an ordinance, but all that we need to do is pass a resolution. Regardless, though, beginning January 1, 2025, these regulations go into effect and the city will be required to enforce them. Consistent with this legislation, limited land use decisions are expanded to include subdivision replats, property line adjustments, and certain non-conforming use requests. What this means is that these applications are handled totally on the staff level. Application is made through City Hall. There is a process where staff provides notice to adjacent owners, and after a certain time period, writes a staff report based on the decision criteria and also the comments that are received. Notice of that decision goes out to the applicant and anyone else who provided a comment. That decision by staff may be appealed to the Planning Commission. Also, the applicant has an option of always going forward to the Planning Commission if they want to skip a staff report. Let's say a larger project, a developer may find that to be appropriate to avoid a lot of time on the staff level. Currently, state law requires this type of review for partitions, subdivisions, and site plan reviews for anything that is allowed within a zone. So how will these changes impact the city? I don't think the housing office is really a big deal, other than they do have funding. They do not have enforcement capability, but I think it can be a resource for the community, and certainly look forward to working with them on a lot of issues, especially in my mind, one of the most important is providing public facilities and the cost to maintain those public facilities to smaller communities. Regardless whether we adopt a code or simply go by resolution, the regulations regarding affordable housing will come into effect. We are required to follow through with those, but I again must emphasize these changes only apply to affordable housing projects that meet very, very specific criteria, and those are spelled out in that fact sheet. And finally, the last item has to do with how we review a lot of land divisions. Fortunately, I'm working on Title 11 right now, which is our land division section, if you will, of the municipal code. I'm going to have to incorporate this material in the updates, and staff by law will be looking at partitions, subdivisions, and all lot line adjustments, again, consistent with state law. These issues of site design review, and also housing changes were brought up to the folks working on the DLCD grants. They are aware of these provisions coming down the line, and I know they're working with the state on whether or not they could fit it into the schedule or the grant, if you will, the funding to make the changes as part of their recommendations. In either event, if that's not possible, we'll sort of gather our forces at the end of the project and figure out what additional changes need to be made. I think it's really important to understand too, is that the state is very, very much pushing the idea of affordable housing. It's all we hear during conferences, discussions, et cetera. And they made it very clear that a city or jurisdiction, county, city, doesn't make any difference, needs to be very, very specific why an affordable housing project cannot go forward. One of the things that they noted is that I think they changed a bit of the rules on attorney fees. If, for example, a jurisdiction denies an affordable housing project, and that is ultimately appealed, and that decision is overturned at the Land Use Board of Appeals, the city might, I'm not saying will, but a city might be liable for attorney fees. So everyone has to tread a little carefully with these changes. And again, look at the bigger goal, I think, of providing affordable housing. I don't see that as a significant impact for the community based on recent construction patterns. And as I said, it's going to be very limited in scope due to that particular style of building development. So that's basically the short story, if you will, on SB 1537. Now, would you like me to jump into FEMA, or would you like, or do you have any questions I might be able to?
Well, if I do have a question though, for the record, can you define what affordable housing is, what that looks like according to the state of Oregon and the federal HUD?
Okay, affordable housing requires that it meet a certain income standard. In other words, it has to be affordable for, I want to say, the 80 to 100%. In other words, there's an average income average, and it has to be affordable for like 80% of that up to 120%. The goalposts change a little bit, but it's all in state law. And so, in other words, a subdivision is likely not going to be part of an affordable housing project. However, you're likely to see more multifamily. It could be infill type, triplex, fourplex. It could be one that's a little bit bigger with a larger number of units. But they have to meet certain standards to meet that goal. I'm currently working with the city of Manzanita on an application that's coming forth. This is the first one I've seen of affordable housing specifically following up on these state laws in terms of adjustments to the height and a few other things. So again, I don't think it's going to be an overwhelming issue, and it just depends whether or not someone decides to proceed with a affordable housing project. And I'm not too sure we would have, let's say, the concentrated mass, if you will, or the business demand for that type of housing here. For example, on the coast, it's very important because while there's demand for businesses and services, folks can't afford to live there and be employed cannot live and work in the same community because of housing costs. And so this is a way to kind of flip that around.
That answers my question. Thank you very much, Walt.
Okay.
We can go on with FEMA flood regulations update.
Okay, this is an interesting one. I think I passed out or sent out a short summary, a FAQ that goes through all this. Long story short, back in 2009, Portland Audubon Society and other environmental groups sued FEMA. And they agreed to some consultations, and the basis of the lawsuit is that the flood regulations or the National Flood Insurance Program, if you will, impacted threatened and endangered species. In other words, when the flood regulations were put together or changed, they never considered that aspect of it. In 2016, the National Marine Fisheries Service issued a biological opinion for Oregon, and it did note that the NFIP, or the Flood Insurance Program, jeopardizes the habitats of several fish species and also the southern resident killer whales. The original deadline to get this taken care of was 2018. The whole process was pushed forward to 2021. And this is a major impact for the state of Oregon. 230 communities that are part of the National Flood Insurance Program are impacted by these regulations. And this also impacts 30 of 36 counties. So this is a wide-ranging and significant issue for the state. Back in October 21, there was supposed to be some draft regulations issued, talking about flood storage, water quality, maintaining riparian vegetation. These had some very significant impact on potentially restricting future land divisions. And also there was going to be possible restrictions on the amount of housing that could be developed per parcel. They were still working on some of the details. Moving forward in 2023, there was a plan to develop a draft plan or with a environmental impact statement. This was supposed to be ready by 2025. Part of the problem, though, and this is where things really got difficult for local communities, these were basically agreements between Federal Emergency Management Administration and the National Marine Fisheries Service. Local communities were not brought into the discussion. And in fact, local communities were the ones who were shall we say, suffer to go ahead and implement these regulations. So all the burden of making sure there's adequate fish habitat is local governments, if you will. There's also an additional burden for communities who fail to comply. The way it's written out that if you do not adopt these standards, you may lose your eligibility in the National Flood Insurance Program. And if you rely on the NFIP for flood insurance, you won't be able to obtain it. Mortgages cannot be obtained. And last but not least, the community may not qualify for flood relief in the event of a flood disaster. So moving on, now we're getting close to 2025, but earlier this year, they developed what is called a pre-implementation compliance measures. And this is a rather interesting one that recognizing that final rules were not in place, they requested that at least some interim measures be put forth to address the lawsuit and address the concern on endangered species. And local communities have three options. You can adopt an ordinance, a model ordinance. You can choose, and this is called like a safe harbor situation. If you adopt it, you've met the federal requirements. The other thing is you can choose a habitat plan and review on a case-by-case basis. I'm not aware of many cities that have the necessary biologists on staff to do this. And finally, the third alternative is for you to simply prohibit all development in the floodplain, which seemed to be a little bit over the top, if you will. But the model ordinance had things like no new fill, no increase in impervious surfaces, trees over 6-inch height, 6-inch diameter, DBH had to be maintained on the site. There were some exceptions with that. But this still presented a problem because they were now asking local communities to implement these regulations. And there was a lot of concerns whether or not FEMA basically went beyond their legal authority to do so. And the irony of this whole thing is that the local communities are being asked to adopt these regulations to protect fish habitat, and there's no evidence that the model regulations will work as planned. So in other words, this is their best guess. There's no discussion, there's no action on a communication between the federal government, the state and local jurisdictions, or even an analysis and environmental impact statement, whether or not this will really do what it's intended to do. At this time, Oregon's governor is really pushing the feds to basically take a timeout. This is just way too much, too soon, without sufficient planning and coordination for local governments to deal with. One way or the other, local governments will be required to basically start enforcing these regulations on October 4th. Either you make a decision, December 4th. Either you make a decision that you prohibit development, you decide to review everything on a case-by-case basis, or you go ahead and adopt a model ordinance. I'm working on the idea of a model ordinance, and I am taking 2 classes, online classes, at the end of this month on how to put it together, the factors, what to consider, and also implementation of that. And I'm hoping we can get that through before the December 4th deadline. I'm not sure that's going to be possible, but I'm also not too worried that we'll see a large wave of development within the floodplain after that date. So I think we're in a safe place. But again, this is something that has just caused quite a bit of consternation, if you will, in the planning community, and very few planners are really up on the details of this. So I'm still working on it, and I'm working with other planners in terms of model ordinances, et cetera. And as I mentioned, I'm following through with the classwork. So my hope is, as I noted in my staff report, I'm not sure how everything will play out, but I will continue to follow events with the hope that logic and cooler heads will prevail. So I'm not giving you any happy information here, but I'm doing everything I can to move the city forward to ensure that we comply.
Will you keep us posted on them putting it off and holding off on this for now?
Yes, I have Shelley and I are in total agreement. If I get anything, she gets it 1 minute later.
Excellent, thank you. So
Okay,
in
thank you.
summary, simple summary, the state is encouraging development and FEMA is limiting development.
I like the way you put that, and that's kind of the challenge here. Look at a city like Sheridan, 70% of the cities in the 100-year floodplain. Now, how do they balance this off between protecting fish habitat while, bear in mind they have the prison there, so they probably have a great need for affordable housing, and also the casino, great need for affordable housing. How do they balance those two possibly conflicting issues off? I don't know. I have no answer. I still scratch my head.
Well, I hope the two figure it out before we have to deal with it.
Yes, that sounds like a good plan. So I am definitely working on it, and Shelley will always be given the latest information.
Excellent. Thank you so much for your service.
Oh, thank you,
Appreciate you.
Mayor.
And council, I'd like to point out in your manila folders for the extra documents, this additional information won't provided is in there for reading later. It's frequently asked questions about the PICM. Those provided by the Department of Land Conservation and Development. So it's in there for you guys to read.
Wonderful. Thank you. That was a lot.
Yeah.
All right, vote on a council president. Our previous council president, as you know, stepped down. We have a new member now. And we need to, and we waited until we had the new member so that she could also have a vote in approving a new council president. The council president acts on behalf of the mayor if the mayor is not available, or is just kind of a support person. Any nominations?
I'll nominate Shay.
Why do you say it like that, Marcy?
Is there a second? Any discussion? Let's get a vote then.
Does he accept?
Oh, is that an option? Shay, do you accept the nomination?
I would accept the nomination. Thank you,
so
Marcy.
much. All right, may I get a vote?
That's
Potter, aye.
Jensen, I.
And I.
Congratulations. Thank you.
very much, yes.
We believe in you.
I'll try not to screw it up.
Okay. Ordinance public hearing. We are going to hold a public hearing on the ordinance 0544 exterior lighting regulations, commercial, non-residential. And we need to do a second reading. I want to read this first. So public hearing procedure. The report, review of the staff report, order of recommendation. The applicant, time allotted to share, they get time allotted to share their application and present the need for the report. And then it's open to public comment. Public comment first starts with proponents, then it starts with opponents, and then the people who are neutral are then welcome to step up to public comment and speak. Then we will close public comment. If there's a rebuttal by the applicant that's available, close the public hearing. Staff has final comments, and then there's questions of staff and the discussion of the body for a vote. So we need to read for our second time our second reading. Who would like to do the second reading? I think I did it last time. Sir, Council President, would you like to do the second?
You can just read the title.
I'm sorry, just read the title.
The title or.
Is it this what that we're looking at? You can't see it, okay, it's okay.
Yes, it's the city, it's the, from the planning commission.
They're filed DCA 2403.
Correct.
So you want, so it says before the Yamhill Planning Commission, it's a code amendment exterior lighting. Order of recommendation. Nature of the application. This matter comes forward. Do we read the whole thing through? prefer?
Just what you think is pertinent and maybe end with city council action.
Because it's 7 pages long. Just a little bit. What was the first reading? What did we read through the first time?
Just the title.
Title, nature of application, general, the location, background, planning action, and city council action request. Just kind of cover that.
Sure, so, general information. The proposed amendment affects, all non-residential property and uses in the city. Background information. The city seeks to amend Yamhill Municipal Code by establishing new regulations for exterior lighting for commercial, public, and non-residential uses. Exhibit A includes the proposed language. Excuse me, skipping to a different page here. On August 26, 2024, the Planning Commission conducted a public hearing on the application. At the conclusion of the hearing, the Planning Commission voted to recommend the City Council approve the amendments, finding the proposal completed with all application decision criteria in Title 10 of the Yamhill Municipal Code. City Council action. The Yamhill City Council will conduct a second public hearing on the request at a date and time to be determined, which is today.
Just today and now. And we will open a public hearing at this time, and we will ask for public comment, and we'll start with those who are proponents, people who are in favor of this code amendment.
I will comment.
Ms. Perrin?
Patty Parrott, 215 North Maple Street. I am totally in favor of this because with the gas station coming in, the one at the other end of town, there would be no restriction. With new business coming into town, it's going to be the same thing. Somebody commented last month that it's a security issue if all the lights are out. It wouldn't be a security issue if there were motion sensors on the building itself or by the doors or by the windows, whatever the case may be. But to have this gas station blaring 24/7, which potentially it could, I think would be a detriment to not only the neighbors, but I think it would be horrendous for the city as a whole to have that glaring at you all night long. So, and none of the other businesses in town right now have any issues, because I can see them all from my living room. And they're virtually not on, except the bank. So, anyway, that's it.
Thank you. Any other opponents? Proponents?
Is it opponents?
No.
No, proponents, those in favor.
Yes, Mayor Robert Davis. I had pictures to present to the group that showed a gas station at the end of town with 4 500-watt halogens all on at the same time when I came into town at 9:30 at night from working in Portland. And they lit up the gas station like it was open for business, which I thought it was. But when I passed the gas station, I noticed the store and the people were gone. But these lights were still blaring out into the highway. As I go around the gas station, I went down to the church, I turned around, come back, drove up in their parking lot. By that time, the lights were out, and I thought, well, this is kind of strange. So I got out of my car. All 4 500-watt halogen lights came on because they must be on a motion sensor. So I turned around and looked, and here is their gas station sign, lit up like they're in full business. And it shining across the street at a neighbor's house who I know doesn't like it. And this was almost 10 o'clock at night. So, yeah, we need a lighting ordinance, at least of some form, fashion, or kind that will at least start the conversation. As I said, the last time this came up for a vote, not only do we need to control our light, but not only for ourselves, but for the birds that fly overhead and they use their direction finding. And this was just in the national news just the other day, where some cities, big cities like Dallas, are turning all their lights off on all their high rises because the birds lose their way with all this ambient light flooding the area. Now, we're not that big a city, but who knows what will be in the next 20 or 30 years. And I know that gas stations have canopy, and I know the average of light underneath that canopy is 1,000 watts per light times 8 lights. That's 8,000 watts of light shining down from underneath this canopy. So it's a lot of light. And so I don't mind them having it when they're open, but boy, they should turn it off when they're closed. And same thing with their signs, I believe. So just my opinion. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other proponents would like to speak at public hearing? Okay, we'll move on to opponents. Any opponents would like to speak at public hearing? Anybody neutral that would like to speak at public hearing? Is there anybody online that would like to speak as a proponent? If so, raise your virtual hand or unmute yourself. Is there anybody online that is an opponent that would like to share in public hearing? And is there anybody that's neutral that would like to unmute and share at public hearing? Seeing none at this time, we will close the public hearing, public comment, and go for a rebuttal. The applicant is not here. So we'll close the public hearing completely and go for staff final comments. I know there was a lot of discussion last time. And one of the, to answer Robert's question, my concern was for the city. My concern was staff time to install on every single building and every single street light and every single everything throughout town. The staff labor to do that. Also, the cost of materials, the lights, replacing all those lights is going to be not very cost effective. And we need to consider that in our decision making. However, I absolutely respect those who spoke that this business lighting needs to be reduced and addressed. I get that. It is too bright and it is too extensive. But we're gonna have to pay for it. Any other discussion?
So we actually just heard Mr. Davis just say you have to start someplace. So I think as we discussed last time, that this ordinance, what they're asking for in here is a 6-month period of time in order to change those things. And in all honesty, I mean, if you look at, if we had a person in town that owned multiple commercial buildings, and then they came to us and said, we would like this period of time to adjust this a little bit extra because we have so many to do and financially, you know, it's tough for us. I think that there would be a variance for those people. And I think a variance could be done for the city if that is what's required at that time, to extend that period of time. I think that it's a well thought out plan with the lighting. But yes, we have a lot of lights, the city does. So that being said, I mean, what I would like to move forward with it now and make small adjustments for people in, you know, the city, to be headed down the right path and get the right things changed at the right time to be in compliance at some point soon. You never know, these public work guys, maybe they do it in a day, I don't know. They're amazing.
Which lights in the city are not compliant? Like, I don't, are we talking
Probably
other
most of
lights?
them.
I've just noticed the Christmas lights.
Well, street lights,
Street lights.
street lights.
Isn't that the highway or the state though?
No, they make us do it.
Like all the lights and like literal,
Like PGE.
yeah, that's
Those are all-
PGE's lights, right?
Those are all PGE.
But if it's a,
Can I ask a question? Are we wanting to kill all the lights in town?
no,
Just, is it on Main Street, or, cause we discussed last time about not doing them by the park and stuff. Is that still? Cause we didn't wanna take them from the park because,
for security reasons.
yeah, for security.
That was all part of the discussion.
But it's complaint based, right? So they wouldn't be taken,
It's complaint based?
wouldn't it be
No.
like the code?
No, all the
No,
lights.
this would be,
This
this
doesn't
would be
limit the
all.
lights. This would be all the lights. All the lights the city is responsible for paying for would be responsible for changing.
Has anybody checked in with PGE to see what their, I guess what their lowest nits would be with these lights? Because I know that we're pretty low right now with our LEDs on those streetlights.
They're pretty new.
So
Well,
that's
so-
a safety issue.
There's an argument to be made that, I mean, I think a reasonable argument to be made, that that only comes about when the business is closed. The city doesn't close. So the streetlights may be unaffected by the way that I look at that.
Yeah.
The fire department would be not
Those are
affected
for-
because they're open 24 hours a day. So their lights are never required to be dimmed.
Was there not an exception for streetlights? And I think I remember seeing one for like Christmas lights, so I can't imagine streetlights.
I think the streetlights talked about, putting a dome or something over it to make it a shield, to limit how far it could spread out.
I mean, you're getting in the weeds with PGE, like we can't control those decisions. I mean, that's an ask that you guys could ask, but I can't control what PGE puts in for their lightings. I mean, that goes, you know, with their
You
engineering.
would have to abide by city ordinances within the city limits,
I don't believe so.
because they're state. Okay.
That's, primarily the concerns are the state highway,
Can
which is all good.
a list of exceptions be?
It goes hand in hand, right?
Mayor, I'd like to clear
We
something
could send
up.
it back to planning to do a list of, there is a list of exceptions though. There's already a
The additional
list.
ones you guys are discussing.
Yeah,
Like we're at council discussion here. Robert.
Well,
there's no public comments done. My apologies. You were saying?
Wow. You know what?
I was saying, I'm actually just reading through real quick to see if I can find this arrow.
Well, it's still online.
So, Mayor, in the exemptions, it says existing lights are exempt but must eventually conform. And then it includes all the different lights that are exempt, and at the end it says, and lighting needed for emergencies. Would that include street?
I don't think that would be, how would you make that an emergency?
It'd
Well,
be
for
more
safety.
definitive of streetlights.
Pardon?
It would be more definitive of having to say streetlights.
So it says actually on, section 5, line item I, public owned lighting must conform to the requirements for businesses, including streetlights located at in the public right of way. I apologize because I was not thinking heavily of streetlights while I read through this.
And to answer other comment, security lighting must be shielded and turned off after 5 minutes.
Do you know for sure that streetlights don't conform?
We don't, I don't think the planning commission got that much information. Existing outdoor light fixtures exempt, but must conform to the regulation within 6 months. Establishing a consistent set of regulations to be beneficial to the community.
Lighting, is that what?
We would be publicly owned lighting. So all the lighting at the shop, all the lighting on City Hall, which is already pretty dim. All the lighting that we provide to the city. I know that we pay for street lighting. We pay PGE to keep the street lights on.
Did we clarify this with planning commission chair? That's exactly what.
We could send it back.
I don't recall that part of the conversation in the commission meetings. But maybe they just didn't think of it either. Because that never even came up. That seems like not safe.
That's my point.
I don't know if that was intended or not.
So lighting curfew, this section, so this is, section 5, line F. This section places a curfew on business lighting. When the business is closed, the lights go out. An additional hour is permitted to open or close a business, and regulations do not apply to 24-hour operating or provisions for security lighting. So it does not apply, if I read that correctly, if you're a 24-hour business, this does not apply to you.
Or if you're not a business, like streetlights.
So, but, well, I mean, if you consider that it says, like, literally, it says publicly owned lighting is included. So I would think that out of fairness, the light over the door at City Hall should be shielded to be in compliance, although you wouldn't have to. Right, like potentially the lighting in front of the fire station that illuminates all the way out across the street, maybe that could be used during an emergency, but not every night. I mean, that's kind of how I'm understanding this.
I mean, rereading this publicly owned lighting must conform to the requirements for businesses, including streetlights located in the public right of way.
Correct, but then again, with the lighting curfew section. I mean, those lights, the city's open, that public right of way is open.
The City Hall is not open 24/7.
The City Hall is just one part of the city though. I mean, Beulah Park is part of the city, yeah, but it does close. So, I mean, I think the park would be affected by the closing.
I don't think it says that specifically in here, that we could narrow it down and put it and fluctuate the ordinance in our favor.
Oh, I'm not saying to do that.
It's not clearly spelled out.
I'm saying by the way that this says, if you're open 24/7, the city is open, right? I mean, if water main breaks at 1 in the morning, what happens? City shows up. You guys are on duty. I mean, you guys show up. Fire department's 24 hours a day. Just because nobody's at the fire department doesn't mean you're closed.
I hear what you're saying.
Do you think it would be wise to include that explicitly in the language?
I think including it.
That that's accepted because it's publicly, it's open?
I think we need to address it, particularly the streetlights. and specifically that. Counselor King?
Can we table it until we can do a little bit more research? That would be my suggestion.
Where do we stand if we table this as far as, it just has to be, Shelley, is it, maybe you know, this just needs to be reread one more time then?
I think it would have to go back to planning commission, they would have to make edits, and you'd have to go back through the process.
Or we could, I believe, also, approve it with conditions. Which is an option that is on my fancy little car. No, just, I mean, to discuss that, I mean, the things that we're most concerned about, right? I think if I understand the public correctly, the majority of that would be to make an exception for security lighting, especially in like a public park. And streetlights would be the major things. I mean,
Yeah.
streetlights are providing safety. I mean, that's why they were installed. I think it seems silly to turn them off if you say City Hall closes
We
at
could
5.
get motion sensors for every time a car drives by, they
would be
would
cool.
come on. Yeah, and it'd go all the way down the road.
That stoplight.
Oh my gosh.
I think this should be clarified, so we do it right the first time.
Exactly.
I'd say send it back to get that clarification, and maybe they can contact PGE and get some information about our streetlights and what we currently have.
Yeah, no doubt.
And we probably need some clarification at City Hall as far as what actually is going to be required and by when, because we need to make sure we can budget for that. We don't currently have it in this budget, so obviously for us, it would have to come into next year's budget, which is longer than
Not
6
6
months.
months.
So there's an exception already. And then I have no sense of how much we're talking about.
Mm-mm.
So we need definitely more information on that.
I know you don't like it, I'm sorry.
No, it's, well, it's so, no, I agree that there are definitely issues with this.
It's not clearly defined.
I think the more we read through it, I think we're finding more questions that we need to get answers to.
Okay. Any more discussion?
I think that you guys are exactly right. I think that it does need to go back. These things that we've just discussed need to be addressed. But I just think for the purposes intended, we need to make sure that this is back on the agenda 100% next month. That this isn't being ignored or thrown away.
No.
A lot of hard work went into it and it does serve a purpose. Just not necessarily exactly as is.
Right. I would like to see the planning commission extend that 6 months and give at least a year, giving not only the city time to evaluate the cost, but also the local businesses. I would hate to go to them and say, hey, you gotta fix this, spend all the money you can, get it fixed in 6 months. And then
Sure.
be like,
So
that's not fair.
in
And
an
we
effort
need
to.
to define emergency. What does emergency lighting mean?
Absolutely.
Or is safe, like,
Yeah.
so you mean like is safety and emergency the same thing? Or is it-
Exactly.
So from my time on planning, the way that I understand that this would work most efficiently would be to direct staff, which is Walt Wendelowski, to make the adjustments that we've just spoken of, to then present that to planning, to make amendments to this. We can already have this drawn up for their simple vote and approval. And then it kicks back to us next month. We don't need to wait. My concern is that it
That's
gets
exactly
bogged
right.
down and it goes back into discussion
No.
for long periods of time.
No, it's already been in discussion long periods
Oh,
of
I know.
time. That's why we need to move on it, but we need to move on it purposefully.
Yeah, I agree. Sadly. It would be just cooler if it was just a little more defined.
We need more definition.
You don't wanna leave it to be able to be interpreted different
No.
ways.
Yeah. Cause then
Because
we'll be
everybody
in
would
legal
have an emergency,
litigation.
Yes.
Yes,
right?
yep. And we'll be in legal litigation with our local businesses. We don't want that kind of
No.
relationship.
No, yeah, let's just get it fixed and get it back on the table.
Okay, so I need a motion then. Marcy?
Do we need a motion to table?
We do,
Okay.
because we just had a public hearing and
Oh, yeah.
one motion. Are you looking for this?
Is it one of our, we're just gonna send it back to planning?
Yeah,
I make a motion that we send back to the planning commission, planning file DCA 24-03, the code amendment exterior lighting for further clarification.
Corrigan second.
vote please.
Corrigan, aye.
Basquiat, aye.
Otter, aye.
Jensen, I.
Kent, aye. Thank you all for hearing me out on all that. I know that that's not popular.
As I was rereading it, I started questioning.
I agree with that. I mean, when I read it through, I had an interpretation, and then when you got into it, it leaves room for somebody to be like, well, that's not how I read it, just not how I read it.
Yeah, there you go. Two different sets of eyes.
Mhm.
All right, department reports. These are the ones I like to listen to.
Public hearing closed now.
Yeah, public hearing has been closed.
So I will, I made a note of the 7 items that council would like to see updated and direct staff to go ahead and make those. But if there's more in the meantime, send them my way and I'll send them to.
Thank you.
Because our council, or PC meetings 28. Report?
Yes, please.
Okay, so,
Shelley, you include talking to PGE and getting their
list
buy-in.
the 7 items that I noted. I have, get clarity on parks, streetlights, security for businesses, the city budget and what city buildings would be required, PGE's lights and their restrictions, what they can do. And then extending it longer than 6 months and define emergency lighting.
Perfect,
Did I
thank
miss
you.
any of them?
With ODOT also, and see what their requirements are.
Say again.
Oregon Department of Transportation to see what their requirements for sufficient lighting are.
For
on
state highways.
Highways,
What they require on lighting.
Highway 47, Highway 240.
Okay, city administrator's report, for September, we'll start again with the police department. And again, just for everybody's information, these are just some of the noteworthy items from last month that are above and beyond their regular course of duty, which is too numerous for me to list. So Chief Graven patrolled on the first day of school to ensure children's safety. He was also appointed the chair of the Law Enforcement for Family Justice Center Committee. One of many chairmanships I think he holds. He attended trauma-informed care training, which is to help both officers and victims when they are experiencing trauma and have experienced trauma and how to handle that situation. Also attended the ODOT 24 Transportation Safety Conferences for, conference for police department grants. And then worked on the security camera installation project at Maine. Corporal Van Cleve attended law enforcement executive leadership training. Also attended search and seizure training, some CJIS updates training, and assisted Yamhill County Sheriff's Office with Spanish translation. And then also did work on the DUI and distracted driving grants last month. Officer Miller attended active shooter critical incident training and RAP restraint instructor training, which you'll get to see a video of here in a minute. He attended trauma-informed care training as well with Chief Graven, and attended the child abuse prevention team meeting, which is a regular meeting that they participate in. He also patrolled the football games for safety and responded to a medical call at the high school. This is just an example. I asked Chief when he reported that he attended the training, I was like, what is REP training? And so he sent me this, so I thought it would be kind of interesting for you guys to get to see what this is, because I'd never seen it before.
It's not letting me do it because it's in a share.
So
It's not Sir Mix-a-Lot.
you just push it in.
No, it's in the share screen for Zoom. So there's no. Wait, isn't that working? Oh, there, sorry.
It doesn't look like a live link.
It doesn't.
Hear it.
Hold on. I don't like, no, you don't like the music? The screen sharing,
Yeah, this is not like.
this one.
We're taking it or something.
It's not gonna let me
It
do it.
works so well on my computer when I practice.
Well. Not with the Zoom going.
Oh, can't do it.
I can
with Zoom?
stop the previous share, which it would take me out of the slideshow and then bring this video up, or I can,
Won't do that.
okay.
We got everyone's interest now.
Do we want to finish the slideshow and then
Hmm?
watch it? Do we want to finish the slideshow and then,
Well, she can if she's running out of this, I don't think.
and then look at it at the end?
It's easier just to keep going.
Yeah, I'd rather go.
We'll try to watch it later. I know it looks like it was fine. Okay, we'll go back to that. School Resource Officer Livingston responded to level 1 and 2 threat assessments at the high school. He also worked on developing, with folks from the high school, a safety plan for threats at YC. He responded to a few medical emergencies at the high school last month. He also did work on a traffic safety grant and reported that he killed a large scary spider for office staff. So that was very much appreciated.
He's so brave.
He's not the only one that did that this month. These are the statistics for September. Just shows the number of calls and case reports, arrests, court citations, warnings, calls for service, and officer initiated contacts from September, as well as the hours worked for each officer and miles driven. And then we go to Public Works and the water treatment plant, they adjusted the chemical feed pumps, exercised the valves inside the facility, cleaned the intake of all sediment and installed leaf screens. And they ran labs at the water plant and the residuals of final treatment. And the water curtailment remains at level 2. And they moved intake from 420 to 380 gallons per minute. But we are still providing sufficient water, which Jason can talk about more, but basically means that citizens are doing what they need to do to curtail water, even with the reduced intake. Do you have any more to add to that?
Yeah, just to add to that a little bit. So we're taking on longer run hours at the water plant. Currently with at the 420 gallons per minute, we were running around 12, 14 hours. So right now we adjusted, we're running about 14 to 16 hours. That basically just kind of rejuvenates the creek and kind of allows us to just take on that extra cost as far as just runtime. But there again, like Shelley stated, the residents are doing a phenomenal job. Like our peak hours were probably around 180 gallons per minute that residents are using. So that's a huge decrease from what we saw a few years ago during our curtailments.
This was what, 500 gallons per minute?
I mean, roughly where you're like, yeah, 380 to
Yeah.
500.
So being down to 180, is that what you said?
Yeah, and that's our
That's
peak. That's our
exceptional.
peak. I mean, there's low ranges of like 83 gallons per minute.
Wow.
Do you know what the big change is?
Well, I mean, it's a multitude, right? It's, you know, people's usage, you know, and how they kind of exonerate water. You know, obviously leak repair.
Okay, so that does include the leaks.
Correct. Correct.
Yeah.
All encompasses, so.
So a few years ago, the usage was around the 500 mark,
Correct.
gallons per minute. And then when we had the curtailment then, that was reduced, the community reduced it to 250 gallons per
Correct,
minute.
that's.
They
yeah.
cut it in half, right?
Right.
And now you're saying a couple of years later, they're down to a peak, a high of 180.
Yep, exactly.
Wow,
Yep.
that's exceptional.
Yeah,
Good for the
it's-
community.
And what it does for that creek is, I can't really put it in words. I mean, you'd have to kind of see that transformation of what we've
Yeah.
done as a residents and just the general public to keep that source alive and thriving.
And all that decrease also includes the new development.
Correct. Correct. You know, I know Patty's not here, not to go too deep into this, but, you know, we constantly monitor with their PMs, their project managers, how that water is being used. And there's a few projects that they have to do where, you know, they're putting exposed concrete out there, so they have to run the water over the concrete to scrub it and so forth. But no, I mean, we've, as a staff overall, including admin, we've done a wonderful job, you know, just getting things out there, so.
Good.
Yeah.
Good. And the communication this last month on the water stuff has been great with it's been wonderful. Thank you for improving that. It's been good. Okay, please continue.
Okay, so moving on. Water distribution, they tapped the water line to install 2 new services. Buttercup and
Buttercup and over here for the new gas station.
I think this is a picture of them doing the gas station.
No, this is at Buttercup,
Oh, this is
actually.
Buttercup,
Yep.
okay. They helped locate some broken lines. They read water meters and installed the new ARV on the main transmission line to the reservoir.
ARV?
Air relief valve.
Thank you.
Wastewater, they are continuing to circulate the lagoons to keep the algae bloom to a minimum. They reviewed the disinfection plans for the new mechanical room from EKS. They cleaned catch basins and looked at I&I
Yeah, that's it. Inflow and infiltration.
issues throughout the system, and then installed a new lift station pump due to age and lack of power. And then in the collection system, they reviewed mapping and survey points to help improve the combined system problem areas. On the streets, they cut asphalt for a curb along Highway 47 beginning last Thursday. There's a picture of Jeremy doing that work. And then they reviewed the cost for grinding and overlay for East Second Street between Balm and Cedar. And they're continuing to patch area potholes. Or they did last month. And then in parks, they removed 2 trees. One was rotten and the other was a safety hazard to the park infrastructure and pedestrians. And they also began daily operations for leaf removal. Inside City Hall, there's been a lot going on. So the utility billing software training happened, was it last week, I think, or the week before? And they're continuing to transfer information into the new database, but I believe that is mostly up and running now. Okay. Going well.
It's a learning curve, but yeah, it's.
They transferred tax code data into the new billing software to track liens for unpaid accounts, categorized and purged records per the records retention schedule, and spent some time gathering the historic info, agendas, packets, videos for Water Advisory Committee Secretary, Mrs. Barron, to review and summarize per resident request, which is what she reported on. They were awarded a CIS grant for the traffic camera installation at the intersection of Maple and Main, which Chief Craven was also working on. And they were awarded an ODOT traffic safety grants, multiple grants on DUI, distracted driving, speed, and safety belt use. And then above and beyond, they, one of our staff sitting here helped a stranded driver replace a flat tire. She didn't end up actually having to replace a flat tire, but she was willing to and helped him figure out how to change his flat tire. And then Kim helped a resident find some homes for some abandoned kittens. sounds like Kara also safely removed a spider from City Hall. And then, they worked on decorating the City Hall with the pink lights for October's With Courage campaign for breast cancer, which Kara Corrigan is a part of. We've got some fun pictures. This is McMinnville all lit up. And this is the goal, I think, that they'd like to see happen here in Yamhill. So just for everyone's information, it's withcourage.org. It supports breast cancer awareness. And you can find it on Instagram and Facebook as well at Paint, Yamhill County Paint. So here's currently what we've got, the City Hall lit up with pink lights and the police department. And then the clock in the trees and Larson House. And I think the goal is to get all of the businesses in Yamhill to put lights up at some point in the future. And so that's what they're trying to promote. In the planning department, we have bid requests. The process for getting the bid requests out and public is in process, and we are getting very close to doing that. Walt and I, with getting that Parks Master Plan out for bid. So that's in the works. We had our first Citizen Advisory Committee meeting, which I reported, and then our second one coming up, and our public meeting again that will be coming up. And then again, the work that Walt described on the FEMA floodplain and Senate Bill 1537 are extensive. So that's happening. With City Council, I met with Councilor Jensen on the tree lighting planning meeting, and the full committee, YDA, and a group of people. And then we did some work internally on onboarding our new counselor, and that will commence now to a greater degree. And continuing work on various legal contracts with council, and then obviously working on getting that field trip to Turnip Creek put together. Those are some of the highlights from September. In the community, the engagement that I did last month was met with the Yamhill County Economic Development Director again on some various projects and potential grant resource opportunities. I attended that regional administrators monthly meeting, which is where I learned about the model for the IT. Attended the ICMA conference in Pittsburgh. Met with the Economic Development Committee Chair on putting the agenda together for this month. Met with Philip Higgins with Regional Solutions and some ideas he has on economic development and parks. And then had met with the Water Advisory Committee. And upcoming events, there's a few. The field trip this Friday, attending the LSE conference next week, which there will be some training there on the new mandated public meetings laws that are coming down from new legislation that everyone will need to attend. So that
It went into effect October 1st.
yeah. And then the trunk or treat, October 31st. Again, November 4th, advisory committee meeting. November 6th, Lafayette is hosting the city county dinner. So if you haven't RSVP'd yet, do that please. And then the public meeting, November 21st, which we'll be putting promotional information out about, and December 6th, tree lighting. And I think that's it. Yeah, that's it.
Whew.
I know.
You've been busy, all of you.
So, any questions? Okay.
Do you have anything you want to report?
Thank you, Matt. I also wanted to report on, and then when we're talking about lighting, I'm like, wait, can we not do the lights anymore? For selfish reasons, so I don't know what would apply or what would apply, but
So do
For-
tell us about the change of your uniform.
yeah, it is for the same process that we have the lighting up, and there's signs out front if everyone saw those, of those that donated to the lighting that we have out front on the sidewalk for Breast Cancer Awareness Month.
Very nice.
And it's also National Bowling Awareness Month, if people aren't aware of that, so. Yeah, it is. I'm not sure if everyone's familiar with the Alyssa law for the House Bill 3103. Is anyone familiar with that? So I've been collaborating with the school, ironically, even before working with the superintendent there. And we have we've been looking for some type of a alert system. And now because of House Bill 3103, it's required at the schools. And we've been working with the school, and I will be collaborating with emergency management as well, Brian Young. So they have a system in place called Safer Watch that we are a part of, which is a system for panic alarms that's wireless. So it's an app-based system. And so that's something that we, as the police department, have on our phones now, and that the school has, that's in place right now.
It's an alert for what?
For any type of
Emergency.
yeah. Just for the Alyssa's law is just to make sure that our kids are safe at the schools, and that we get a timely response. So it's an app-based thing that if there's any type of emergency at the school, any of the Yamhill Carlton school districts properties, then they have a means in the classroom, which is one of the requirements, or anywhere on the campus, to hit a panic button.
Nice.
And that would be immediately alerted to us, which they've been doing some testing on it, so I've received a lot of, just, they didn't say they were testing before. I was
Did you say
receiving
it's called Alyssa's Law?
Alyssa's Law, it's House Bill 3103, yeah. And Safer Watch is the app-based or web-based program that they're utilizing. And they're also collaborating with WACOM, which is our dispatch center, regarding those alerts as well.
Nice.
I did also want to introduce Kim Kind to the family. Welcome. And any questions, just let us know. Okay. Also, I wanted to publicly thank all of the staff for the hard work that we all are doing. And the communication that we have has been great. And we meet on a regular basis, which does help, so that we're just kind of not just herding cats, but it's controlled.
Controlled herding.
Yeah. Does anyone have any questions about any of the reports?
Very good. Thank you. Public Works.
Yeah, just want to give a big shout out to the crew. I mean, we had that main water line break, and it was phenomenal to see how we addressed it in so quick. I mean, we're in and out of there in 2.5 hours. That's all the way from emergency locates to getting all the flagging material to getting flaggers on site ourselves, and being on a main, main highway like that on Highway 47, and able to operate and get that done in 2.5 hours was pretty phenomenal. And I'm just really proud of my guys and admin putting out there and just having our backs, with the general public, so we can get the work done. So no, that's about all I have.
Excellent. Thank you. I have nothing to report at this time. Does any counselors have anything they'd like to report? At this time, okay. City of Yamhill is accepting applications for the planning commissioners. One at large and one city resident. Terms begin in January 2025, and we're taking applications now. Beginning in January, the city will be accepting applications for budget officer for the budget committee. And we do need people to volunteer for that we can't put out a budget without citizen involvement. We absolutely need input from our community. New utility billing software, new format for bills, new online payments coming soon. And the Lafayette dinner invite, and that's all I've got. Yes, sir.
The newsletter.
The newsletter. Oh, yeah.
Well, I've got it here on the tablet. It's basically the same as what it was before, except it looks a little different. I think it looks better, but so in doing that, I'm still having a difficult time making it council focused rather than just a different version of what you can find online. Really, I feel like a lot of it is just copying and pasting from the website, like upcoming events and this and that. So if we're trying to make it a way to, for city, if, like, the goal of it is to be a way to like communicate with the public and engage strictly for city council. I don't know if, I'm happy to keep working on it, but I don't know if it's, I feel like it might just be like the first Fridays. But I can keep working on it and send you all a link of what I have right now.
That would be great. Yeah,
And-
send a copy to all of us and
Yeah.
we'll definitely review it.
Sure.
and Give
Okay.
some input. Yes, sir.
Brought up two more things that, I was getting distracted there, but, one of the things that we have through our new provider for water billing and utility billing is a alert system that we can do notifications. So all people need to do is to let the staff know at City Hall, that it needs to be not a landline, but an actual cellular service provider. And anything that needs to be pushed out, we got a water line break over here, or this construction's going on over here. So the city will be able to put those types of things out. Any ordinance violations that are going on, that we could just do, hey, you guys are parking your campers on the street and they've been there a while, that's a violation of ordinance, or somebody has a bunch of debris piled up and their cars are junked out front.
Yeah.
Need to clean, just as a reminder to people to clean those up.
So you can do specific numbers? The people that have those issues?
No, just
Citywide.
you,
Oh, citywide?
yeah, you can do that, but then you can put out a blast alert
Call them
through
out
the
to
new
the whole
provider,
city.
yeah. So get with staff for what you're looking for, Tim, and then
Okay.
they will not have concern about it for the teams that she's on and the things she's volunteering for Patty.
Okay.
Just someone let her know that is something that the city has now.
Is
And
there
then-
gonna be any limitations on what that can be used for, or
Well, they won't let me put things out on there if that's what you mean.
they won't let you?
Yeah. Or not those types of limitations.
Happy
I don't know. I don't have an answer to that. I mean, I don't know how many characters are required or
Yeah.
anything like that. It's a lot better than the system that we have before.
Absolutely.
And it's a part of the cost and that's already included with the vendor.
Okay.
And also I wanted to address something, that, when I received a call about the concerns over on Third Street, which I'm very well aware of, there's speed bumps and humps. Signs put up, there's 20-mile-per-hour signs, there's park, I mean, there's a lot of notification, I knew that. But when I received the complaint last week, I went over there and ironically, the construction workers who I received the complaint about that were speeding, as I was sitting there, it came up to me, which I am there often when I am out patrolling, I go through the park and go through the school. They were complaining about speeders as well. So why I'm there about the complaint of the construction workers, 3 of them came up to me and were complaining about others speeding, which was kind of a great caveat because I was able to talk with them and let them know, hey, by the way, let your people know that we're receiving complaints about you guys as well. So I don't know that it was that productive because, I mean, as soon as I
It's
drive
not
away.
just the contractors. There's-
No, I
The
know.
citizens are doing it too. I mean, I even speed up down the road. It's just.
Yeah. But, so we're keeping an eye on it. I put a notification out to our team to do some extra patrols in the area.
Perfect.
And that's the best at this point that we can do. And I kind of explained the process that would be involved for putting up stop signs and stuff. It's not just like, I wish we could just go put a sandwich board up, but there's liabilities for the city if we do that.
True.
Yeah.
And it's not forever. They will eventually go away. Right?
Speeders?
No.
Speeders won't go away.
Construction.
Construction.
Well, the speeders, if they keep speeding, they'll go away too.
So, Greg, without getting into it, what's the limitations with putting up stop signs? I'm not familiar with that process.
Well, I mean, that's not something that only I could do as a recommendation. It involves the city, it involves Public Works, and it involves, for the most part, depending on Jason's not just like, okay, let me throw a sign up there. It would require a study to be done in the area, So it's not just like go throw a sign up there. We wish that we could do that, trust me. But that's not what we can do. And then once we do, yeah, and then once we do, I won't say do, but when we do that, there's requirements that if we do make traffic control changes, then we have to do notifications that there's a traffic control change ahead and so forth. So it's pretty elaborate and it doesn't just happen overnight. However, we've been doing extra patrol and that's probably what was seen there with the officer that was in the area because he was out patrolling that area and stopping someone, which I heard going on tonight as well.
Jason, is there a plan to do a sidewalk by the park?
There is, it's part of our master plan.
Okay.
No. So you're gonna send out what you have and then we'll give you some feedback and we'll go from there?
Yeah, sure.
Okay.
Yeah, I'll send it tomorrow.
And one other point about that is, in looking at a few other cities, there are cities that just do a one pager, so it doesn't have to be super elaborate. So if that helps.
Like, I was thinking about this last night, so when I was kind of realizing this, you mean like, a review of like, say, if we're publishing it hypothetically next week or something, would you just like include review of this specific meeting as well? Like points of interest, so for people that don't want to read the minutes?
Read the
If they
minutes.
don't want to read the meeting minutes, or, I don't know. I'll just send you what I have and put you guys,
We'll go from there.
sounds good.
Anything? Ingrid, you had something?
Yeah, just on the water bill, could they make the writing a little bit higher? It's hard to read the bill.
Have you gotten the
On the
new?
blue,
the
yeah,
new
with blue
format?
spokes that go
Yeah.
up, you can't read at the top, you can't read the usage from year to year.
So make the font bigger.
It's really
Yeah.
small.
That and the usage.
I don't think it is. I did tell her that I would look into
Yeah,
it.
I was
but
talking
we
with
haven't
her when I
started
paid
the
my water
process.
bill, it's just.
I
I was
did
like,
show the
yeah,
usage
I know it's down
lower on the
below, but
bill
when you
and on
wanna
the bigger
compare
It
the
does, yeah.
months, you can't, I mean, the blues go up and down, short and high, but you can't see the numbers if you look at it. It's, I have bifocals, but I can't see it because of my magnifying glass.
We don't know what the
It's at the bottom.
All right. May I get a motion, please?
I make a motion, we adjourn.
We are adjourned.